23rd out of 32 teams in points allowed this year. 19 out of 32 teams in yards allowed for the Detroit Lions this year. And yes, I'd say that's in the lower half of the NFL, but nonetheless, the Lions defense ensure, specifically in the last month of the season, they got torched by Justin Jefferson twice and Nick Mullins. CeeDee Lamb had 200 yards receiving in a game.
240.
Yeah, I mean, so they did have their fair share of problems there. Is that coach or is that personnel? Because I'm out here seeing Cam Sutton get cooked like as nobody's business. I mean, CJ GJ, one of the best safeties in the league.
He pulled the Super Bowl.
Had a really bad game.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious why so many people have so much hatred towards Aaron Glenn. All I see is make Mike Vrabel the defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Guys, Mike Vrabel's he's going to go make $15 million doing TV next year.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than $15 million. He ain't doing that. So I think Aaron Glenn's a pretty darn good coach. I think he will be a really good head coach because I think it's all about leading men. And if you upgrade with some premier players in premier positions, I think you'll get there.
Look, we know what the answer is. It's because he's black. I'm joking. It's Black History Month, man. Come on. It's first day Black History Month. Jesus Christ. I had to crack a joke. It is because the man is a black man.
I love you, Braylon.
I love you too, man.
You can have fun with it.
Clearly, it's not about him being black.
It.
All jokes aside, all seriousness, the issue is this. Look, it's part of both. It's part of players out of position, not making plays, not living up to their end of the bargain, kind of like on the opposite side in the game on offense. Ben Johnson drew some things up. Some people didn't necessarily seal the deal on their end with catches and things like that. But also, Lions, man, they're 23rd in sacks in terms of 41. They're 23rd in the league. They're 11th in picks, which isn't bad. But they're still out of position. And when they play big-time games, when they play big-time teams, you see the same thing. You see the defense not be able to step up. When they played good teams early in the season, they couldn't get to the quarterback, Ryan. I don't care who's the defensive coordinator. You got to draw something up where somebody can get a sack. When they played Baltimore, 0. When they played the Chargers, 0. When they played the Seattle Seahawks, 0 early on in the season. That's on the offensive coordinator because you got to find ways to get those guys to the quarterback. Later in the year, you saw them move Aiden Hutchinson around. That was a good adjustment. I think it's twofold. I think the Lions haven't necessarily focused on the defense in terms of putting money on that side of the ball. You still need linebackers. You still need a shutdown corner. You still need somebody on the opposite side. So it does handicap you to a bit. So maybe he's doing the best that he can with what he's working with, but that's not going to be good enough for the people, and that's maybe not be good enough for anybody else. But that's part of the problem. It's him as well as we've been saying it. We wanted an interior guy. We wanted somebody to help Aiden. We needed a shutdown corner. Mosley was supposed to be the guy, not Cam Sutton. He tears his ACL. Cam Sutton's now forced to cover the number one corners. And like you said, he got cooked with grease a bunch of times. But when you put players, I think this would be the year that I actually judge Aaron Glenn. Because they're gonna put some money.
Yeah.
They're gonna put some money in the defense. They're gonna draft some defense. Jack Campbell will be a year older. Brian Branch will be a year older. Anzalone will be locked in and be even better than he was last year. So I think this is the year that you can judge AG in that defense because they won't disappoint you with the players or the personnel.
Hey man, they made it to the final two teams in the NFC. He had to be doing something right. All right, they didn't only win with their offense. It's a complete team effort. 53 man plus the practice squad of 18. The guy can coach. It ain't his fault that Aiden Hutchinson got pancaked all day on Sunday and he got no tackles, no sacks, hardly any pressures. It's not his fault that Derek Barnes got hurt and went out early in that game. And they got the most out of Derek Barnes, let's face it. He helped turn Alex Anzalone around. I know Calvin Shepard is the linebackers coach, but you don't think AG is in that room as well? Ife Melifonwu, he's come out of nowhere.
Made the Pro Bowl.
Nowhere. The kid is unbelievable. It was like signing a great free agent. He just popped in, and he became one of the better players on that defense. They're going to fill in the gaps, guys.
Yeah.
James Houston came back at the end of the season. Already put a couple pressures on the quarterback. Almost got a late hit on Brock Purdy. Listen, man, give Aaron Glenn a chance with the proper people in the proper places. This guy can coach. Dan Campbell believes in him. You guys love Dan Campbell? Then you got to love AG.
Hey, look, man, at the end of the day, I'll give you an analogy, man. Actually, I won't give you an analogy. I'll tell you what happened. Look at the offensive coordinator when he first started, Anthony Lynn to Dan Campbell to now Ben Johnson. Why was it so horrible? It's the same things on the defense. They didn't have the players. They had Amon-Ra St. Brown. That didn't even happen until week 9 of the season, till week 8 of the season. They had Quintez Cephas was their number 1 wideout. Remember that guy? Yep. Didn't have any. They had T.J. Hockenson, who was in and out. You had DeAndre Swift. That offense was horrible.
Yep.
That offense was horrible, and they fired the offensive coordinator. Aaron Glenn, they stayed with. They stayed with him for a reason. They fight. Dan Campbell had to relieve himself. He said, hey, look, Ben, you're next man up. I think you'll be good for this job. By the time Ben got it, they had already started putting some pieces in play. They had drafted Penei Sewell. You had Amon-Ra St. Brown, which turned out to be a great piece. The very next year, you saw what happened the very next year. You had Jameson Williams. See, he's starting to progress. You add Sam Laporta this season. Now Ben Johnson was given a full roster. And Ben Johnson can be as good as he can be or as great as he can be. I think the same thing has to happen in terms of Aaron Glenn. You got to give him grace because they haven't necessarily, outside of Aiden Hutchinson and Brian Branch, they haven't necessarily dedicated defensive draft picks and free agency. This year, we will really get a chance to see Aaron Glenn.
And you've got to go out and obviously get a stud cornerback, right? I mean, Cam Sutton clearly, and we like Cam Sutton. He's joined us on the program before.
He could be a good nickel.
But he could be a good nickel. He could be a good number 2. He maybe. But you got to get somebody out there that is going to really be that lockdown corner to go against guys like DJ Moore and Justin Jefferson and Christian Watson and some of the guys in this division that they'll see. Romeo Dobbs that they'll see a couple times a year. So that's a really big spot that they have to upgrade. And I do think Aiden Hutchinson will be a much better player in year 3. Heaven forbid, maybe you can have James Houston be healthy next year, and he and Pascal can go back and forth, being defensive end, rush end. You can add
Pascal's made strides.
Absolutely, I think he absolutely has, and that's part of actually getting out on the field and performing too.
Aleem McNeil was a stud when he was on the field.
He did. He had a sack.
He had a fantastic season, Aleem McNeil.
Absolutely.
Fantastic
What a bull
season.
rush that. You see that bull rush on Sunday?
I did see that, and it's crazy. What happened 2 years ago? What did they say before the season? It said Aleem McNeil was one of the freakiest athletes in the NFL.
He showed.
In terms of physical stature, not anything else. But yeah, like, you were like, all right, we'll see it. But he absolutely showed this year. So once again, Brown home strikes again.
Stay healthy.
Hey, the Lions did make a coaching move. They have added Terrell Williams.
This is a big one, right?
To be the new run game coordinator and defensive line coach. Williams coached with Mike Vrabel in Tennessee, one of his most trusted lieutenants there. So Williams comes over to Detroit, does have a history with Dan Campbell. He's a guy that's going to help this team. And by the way, he's a guy that maybe be able to help with some X-Factor players in this draft because he is coaching the Senior Bowl. He's the head coach at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, this is going to be
awesome.
This is going to be good. I think he's doing the D-line as well. Like, he coaches the run game
He'll
coordinator.
do the run game coordinator and the D-line.
Definitely need him on the defensive line. In terms of the run game coordinator, I'm a little leery. I mean, you've had Derrick Henry for the past 6 years. Like, you don't have to have much of a run game when you got a 6'4", 245-pound mutant in the backfield. So I want to see how that progresses because the run game was really good last year for the Lions. They did some really good things. So don't go messing with it too much. But I'm happy to have him. I'm happy to have his experience. He was coaching actually when I was in the league as well. So. Experience, never underrated.
Well, he can coach now with the Sporting News Coach of the Year. A couple of the Lions got some honors this year as well. Dan Campbell, Coach of the Year by the Sporting News, and Brad Holmes named the Sporting News Executive of the Year. So the Lions are in good hands. And I think one of the things that Dan Miller had mentioned yesterday is a point that cannot be underscored. The San Francisco 49ers were in this game for 2 years in a row. They lost this game 2 years in a row. They have won this game now. They're in the Super Bowl. There are many champions over history. We have them here in Detroit that will tell you they have to go through it before they can get over it.
Yeah.
And, go through the pain, go through the loss of losing and then coming back out on the other side and winning a championship. I think we all feel the Detroit Lions are still heading on a heavy incline, and they will be back. But they've got to put the work in.
In 2009, 2010 season, the Colts beat us, the Jets, in the AFC Championship. We thought about that team and that moment the whole offseason. We talked about that, how we let it go, how we let it slip out of our hands. Like, they weren't better than us. Like, we literally gave them that game back, and we cost us our opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. Well, we got a chance to play them in the first round, and we had to go back to Indianapolis and play them to get through them to get to the Patriots. And you're right, it fueled us. Now, obviously, it wasn't fueling us, and we didn't get to the championship. But we had to play them, and it fueled us, man. We practiced so hard that week. We were on it. We were ready, and we went out there and we beat the Colts. So it definitely will fuel you. It makes you want to. Losing that championship game, you start to look. The thing about that, the great thing is, every player starts to look at everything that they could have done different. Because, like, in the course of a game, you think you had a good game. You didn't have as good of a game as you thought. You think you had a bad game. You might have a worse game than you thought. But when you go through a moment like that, you just look at everything. Dang, I was off his highs a little bit right here. Or, you know what, I ran that route a little too short. That's why the pass was picked off, or I ran it too long. So it makes you really think. It makes you dial in. And if you're one of those guys, like I think all 53 of these guys are, those guys are going to be very meticulous this offseason. You're going to see an invigorated team once August comes.
Hey, they're going to watch the Super Bowl with pain. I bet you half of them don't even watch the Super Bowl. They might be.
Some of them.
They might not watch this game. I mean, they beat the Chiefs already.
I didn't watch it.
And the Chiefs are a different team now. We know that. And they're the champs. And then the San Francisco 49ers. We all know what should have happened in that game. It didn't. They did not finish. It's going to be really hard to watch this game. I even told my wife, I never leave my house for the Super Bowl, ever. And I said, we can do whatever you want on Super Sunday. As far as if you want to go to someone's house for a party.
Right.
We all got to watch the Super Bowl. My
Right.
family's a football family. But I could give two damns.
Where you watch
where
it.
I am.
Right.
I got the guts ripped out of me.
I know.
It's
There's
still,
no doubt
it's
about
still,
it.
I'm down, man.
You know, if you think about, those Pistons years, too, and the Bad Boys, they lost to Bird in 87. They lost to Magic in the finals.
They cheated.
In 88. And then they won back-to-back
Phantom
championships, 89 and 90. The Red Wings, they got swept by the
95.
Devils in 95,
Yep.
and then they come back and win it in 90. And then they lose to the Avs in 96.
And come back.
Win it 97, 98. So we have history on our side in this town that when our teams do go through moments like this, hell, the Pistons in 04, they lost to the Nets.
Yep.
New Jersey Nets and Kerry Kittles. Remember that? Richard Jefferson.
I was at the Chauncey half-court shot.
Yeah.
And they still lost in overtime.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they have been through it. But in this city, we remember champions who have fought through those moments, and hopefully this is one of those moments. But it just hurts in the moment.
Sure it does.
The only reason you're still talking about those AFC Championship games
Because they hurt.
is because you never won the Super Bowl. If you after those two games, if you won the Super Bowl, you wouldn't focus on that anymore.
No.
And for us Lions fans, until we win a Super Bowl here, we will always scream, "Take the points."
I feel like you just took a shot at me, man. I'm gonna have to fight you during the break.
No,
man.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I know I ain't win no Super Bowl.
But I know.
You're a year away, Bray.
Right, you were a what away? You were a year away with Seattle.
A year away.
I was an offensive coordinator away from winning.
LOB. You were a year away.